Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans, welcome back to Chapter 107, 107 episodes of the Rule the Galaxy podcast. And we have great co-hosts tonight, but then we've got a special guest. We've been looking so forward to talking to him. We'll get to him in a minute, and I know we've been promoting on Twitter and other social media avenues, but as always, you can follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter. You can email us rulethe@gmail.com. Rule the Galaxy on Facebook and on YouTube. And while we're recording this live right now on the podcast side, this YouTube will be up later on this week, so you can go check that out and check out our cool guest and all his great stuff in his office that he's got there. But again, it's Joe in the pilot seat. Thank you for being a part of this ride, 107 chapters of this crazy podcast. Just some Star Wars guys having fun here. I'm going to go through our regular co-hosts and introduce everybody. We'll go alphabetical. I love going alphabetical. It reminds me of school. We'll start off with my cousin, Alfie. Alf, how you doing, brother?
Man, I know I say it every week, and every week it just gets more hectic at my house, and it rushed to get here, but I'm happy to be able to have a chance to talk some Boba Fett and some Star Wars.
You got it. And as always, for our viewers on YouTube, and occasionally you might hear her on the podcast, Miss Azalea, one of the biggest Star Wars fans in the world, is checking us out there with Alfie. So hi, Azalea.
Yeah, she's got a few minutes left in her.
Yeah, the batteries will run low. Mr. Brent Dykman, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Just finished off some Squid Game, so kind of in an interesting space mentally because of that. But I also want to make sure that I let everybody know that Azalea had a tough decision to make for Halloween. She had to choose between the Mandalorian or Boba Fett because she had both costumes. Daniel Logan weighed in and told her that he should go with Boba, but I believe she chose Mando.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
It was last minute.
You know, when Daniel Logan's throwing in, or our other guest here in a minute, when they're throwing in advice, we should probably maybe listen, but she is too. So she still has that free spirit.
Yeah,
and
free spirit.
That's right. That's right. Last but not least of our regular co-host, D-Doc, out from Philly. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Very excited to have Mark on tonight. I sent that email as a Hail Mary a while ago, and it's awesome to have him on here. So I'm just excited with all this news that came out this week to just talk about everything Star Wars under the sun. I'm hyped.
Well, I will thank you initially, D-Doc, for getting this set up, because it was your hard work and effort reaching out to our friend Mark here to bring him on the show. And we know we had some issues that caused you to not be on earlier. We are, again, so sorry for you on those family issues that came up, but we are glad that you were able to come back and be a part of what we're doing. But the guy we're talking to and the guy we're talking about is the one and the only Mark Anthony Austin, also known as Boba Fett from A New Hope in the special edition. Mark, welcome to Rule the Galaxy. How are you?
I am very well. I'm very pleased to be here. I said that we delayed it, but finally we came together. So I'm glad.
Well, we are glad to have you. And I'll tell you what, Brent brought this up as we were talking beforehand, just getting to know each other and everything. But looking at your IMDb page, I'm just going to start off there. Besides you being Boba Fett from A New Hope special edition, the things you've been involved with, and if any of these are wrong, let me know. But visual effects, it's saying here, Men in Black, Godzilla, Star Trek Beyond, Jungle Book, Smurfs, Arthur Christmas, Avengers, 300, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Thor, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and then also you've done work for ILM and Disney. Casper, one of my kids' favorite movies. They love that movie still to this day. Dinosaur, Treasure Planet, Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, and Bolt. And that is an awesome, for visual
Casper.
people, that is absolutely awesome Casper right there.
One of my childhood favorites.
So one, Brent mentioned again earlier, we are just geeking out. Oh, look at that, from Chicken Little. See, I've watched way too many of these movies myself. But we kind of geek out to think that we're actually talking to somebody who's been involved not only with Star Wars, but all of these different franchises and movies and everything like that. Just if you want to kind of recap to our listeners a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, your movies, your involvement, anything you think would make them go, wow, I definitely need to follow this guy more and pay more attention to him. Give us a quick 30,000 foot view of that kind of background.
I'll compress it as small as I can.
Okay.
I got a Bachelor of Arts degree in animation. And so for the first 5 years, I made commercials in the UK and Europe. And so in the UK, people know my commercials, but you don't get your credit on a commercial. I got a job offer in ILM. They flew me over just for one job in '94, and I'm still here.
Wow.
I did 2 years at ILM. Then Disney were like, come to Disney. So a lot of my friends migrated, and so I did 13 years at Disney. And then since then, been in visual effects again, but mainly on the previous side. So this is shot creation or sequence creation, action scenes made virtually ahead of time, so that it saves a budget, because they know exactly all the shots and they can budget out a movie, know who's going to be in front of the camera, actually show them what it's going to look like. I've been doing that since 2009. And the last 2 years, I've been working back in feature animation again for Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So, Brent, I'll let you take the next question.
And good
Mr.
night.
Austin.
So right. So you said you started with animation, and I just want to know how, in a brief answer, how has the technology changed from, you said 94 in animation to 2020 in animation? It has to be night and day different.
There's things that I wish we had when we made, because the two movies I made at ILM was Casper and New Hope Special Edition, doing the creatures. And so if I had the tools I have now to do the creatures, they might look okay to you guys. I don't know. I see mistakes. I see things I wish I could do over. I see problems. And that's because of the tools changed. On Casper, there had been no movies that had done lip sync with an animated creature before that we knew of. So we had no reference. There have been some really ugly things that are done in some shorts made and put in festivals, but nothing that looked realistic. And so we had to come up with an idea of how to make Casper believably speak. And so the solution we came up with was to have someone design, which was me. I had to design all the Casper face shapes. That's why I became the Casper lead. But I designed his neutral mouth. And then you design a mouth at most extreme open. And if you blend between the two, it looks like he's opening and closing his mouth. That's the whole concept behind all the animation that happens today. But we had to think of it and come up with it and test it. And we tried motion capture on the lips, and it looked very creepy. It kind of crawled. It looked like I don't know. I hate to diss this, but I can't stand the lip sync on Dragonheart just because it's so moving everywhere. It's like it was too. I told them we've got too many controls, but they wouldn't listen. Anyway,
that's right.
Yeah, it's changed significantly. Now they have things called constraints, where the constraint is my hand comes up, I do a pose like I'm grabbing a glass. And then now you can say, okay, on this frame, the glass is not attached to the hand, but on this frame, the following frame, it is. And so up before it, you can move the hand around, it's not going to move the glass. After it, it's going to have the glass in it. If only we had that in 1995. If only we had that, that would have been so much easier.
I think just to make it seem how weird the world is, I got my first email address, I think, in 1994. So that was about the time you were doing that work.
Yeah. My first day at ILM was actually sneaking in there. Well, not sneaking in. Somebody showed me where I was going to be working. Like, this is where you're going to be working. It was a Saturday. You're going to be working here. This is your desk. This is your computer. Wow, I've never seen a computer before. You're going to have to do a login. What the hell's a login? He's like, this guy had done computers, obviously. Oh, you got to think. You got to come up with your name. Your name. You're probably M. Austin. Okay. Now you got to come up with a password. Okay, what is it? No, you got to think of it. I didn't know anything. Didn't know anything. My first day, because before when I did the 5 years of commercials in the UK, that was all hand drawn animation.
Oh man.
So that was it was all hand drawn, and it had to be inked, and I helped with paint and trace. I painted backgrounds for some commercials. I kind of got my hand into everything. So I think that first job where I was doing the 2D animation and doing backgrounds and doing inking and doing all these different disciplines, even directing, I directed a couple of commercials. Because I'd done all of it, even storyboarding, I kind of went into the movie industry with all this as like a wealth of knowledge. And so ILM just like jumped on that and jumped on it,
Gotcha.
So they kind of, they were smart. They didn't know, they didn't have, they couldn't like go down a list of computer animators. Now you can,
Right.
You can look at it online. This is before, no, this is when the internet was out, but you couldn't have access to it at ILM. Not when I was working there. There was no access back then.
Right.
But you had internal email, and you could email like your friends in England, but they didn't have any email. So I couldn't email anyone until,
So
it's very weird back then, very different.
I'll hit you up and I'll let Brent. Do you find yourself, even with all these new tools and gadgets and everything technologically advanced, do you still find yourself wanting to sometimes just sit back and draw something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because like now I'm working on an anime. It's an anime for Netflix. I can tell you what it is. It's Ultraman made in Japan.
Yeah.
Well, it might be, that's the working title. It might change. But because they give you the 2D storyboards, which I'm familiar with, but then you've got to make this circular camera move in 3D, come booming down towards something, and yet keep it in that place on the frame. It's very easy to draw that, but it's hard to replicate that all in 3D and keep that character from moving all over the screen,
Gotcha. No, that's good. Brent, you had something, and then after him, if D-Doc or Alfie have something for you, go ahead.
it was just two quick questions. So you were talking about Casper and you were talking about developing the mouth. Just so like because I think I have an idea and I'm curious what the answer is. How long did it take you to work on just that mouth and to get it to a point where you felt it was workable?
That probably was about, on my part, was about 3 weeks.
Okay.
But on the modeler's part, I gave him a bunch of drawings, for all the, not just the phonemes, which is the A, E, I, O, U, those face shapes, but the B's, P's, M's, N's, R's, they're all different. They're different shapes.
Right.
R is different to S, different to T. It's all different. And because we didn't have a jaw in Casper, we had to just animate that mouth. He didn't really have a real jaw. Now we do usually build jaws into 3D models.
I'm really glad this is going to be on YouTube because we're doing some serious visual here. So, go ahead.
And then the follow-up question to that, as you mentioned drawing. So I see a Leia in the background. Is that your work, or is that a lithograph?
Yeah.
Or is that hand drawn?
This is. Yeah, all these are.
Okay.
That's a pencil. This is acrylic.
Oh,
it's not finished
beautiful.
yet.
Wow,
it's not finished
that
yet.
probe is awesome. That is
I've got to do more
awesome.
cloud here. I've got the stars to put in, a bit more cloud here, and that darken him is a bit too light, and
That's
more
gorgeous.
down here.
Yeah, just
I
go
was
ahead and start.
following your progress of that on Twitter. Sorry, Joe, but
No. I was
I was,
go ahead.
I was following your progress of that on Twitter, and I was like blown away by it because I was jacked up because I just bought the Probe Droid Lego recently.
Yeah,
I still haven't
so I
built it.
I did get it. I got these two on my desk down here.
Oh man.
Wow.
I got lots of stuff around. Here's a self-portrait. That's in color pencil.
Nice. So for those on listening,
Wow.
Mark showing us a Boba Fett of himself, a drawing from him from Star Wars: A New Hope special
I've got them
edition when he's under
framed.
the Falcon. That's gorgeous.
This I sculpted. I sculpted this at Disney.
Oh my god!
You sculpted that.
Yeah,
I could
This
use
is a
that in
Rancor,
Legion.
by the way.
it's the Rancor, and there's like a Gamorrean guard half torso down there.
I could use that in Legion, Joe.
You could. You probably need to just go get that from him. Use it as part of your terrain. These are fabulous. So the sculpting he was just showing us, for those of you listening on the podcast, I don't know, a couple feet high, a couple feet wide Rancor that he sculpted himself. It's actually, I mean, between the Leia, the probe droid, the dewback back there, all gorgeous work. D-Doc, go ahead. You were going to hit him with another question.
All right. This is just kind of off the top of the head, but I just thought of it. When you put on the Boba Fett suit, what kind of jitters would you say you had, if you had any? Were you nervous?
You mean for the blue screen shoot? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've worn it 4 times.
Okay.
So
Okay.
This
this was the
I'd like to
fourth
hear.
time.
I'd like to hear one, how it initially happened, and then I'd like to hear what the 4
It's-
times were.
It's weird when
Oh, sorry, Alfie, I cut. I'm sorry, I cut.
He took my first one and you took the second one.
And Alfie's a big Boba Fett fan, so we're screwing it all up for him.
I've waited like a month with those 2 questions.
oh shoot.
You could ask like 5 more. We'll shut up.
I'll let you ask it again.
Go ahead, Alfie.
No, go ahead. It's out there. I just want to hear the answer.
Okay. Well, for me personally, like this is like kind of growing up loving dress up, like as a kid. For me, as soon as that helmet comes down, it's like the mark goes away, and Boba's there, and I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not done the other 2 times, my second and third time, where I got to wear the suit and walk around in it for 4 hours straight. So I think because of doing that twice, like 2 kind of practice runs of 4 hours wearing the suit, and manipulating my way visually, no one to help me. So I had to get used to low light and that T-visor really fast, and especially the vertical. Invaluable, this vertical bit down here. But those 8 hours, I think, contributed to no jitters on the day, because I'd done it. I was used to the suit. I was used to it. I had lines still from the last time I'd worn it, I think. As soon as that helmet comes down, it was easy just to become Boba, I think. So
It's funny because I was just going around on Halloween with my little guy. He was Darth Vader for Halloween, and I have the Black Series Mandalorian helmet.
yeah,
And it's fun. It's funny how you're saying that, because I just feel like when you put that helmet on, it's almost like
yeah.
you feel like you just kind of turn into something
Takes
else. I don't
over.
know. Like, that's
Yeah.
funny.
You're a badass.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like when Iron Man puts one piece of his suit on, and the rest just kind of grows. As soon as that helmet's on, you just feel like you're in the gear. I don't know. That's me. But then I feel different wearing any kind of, even hats. A cap. When I used to go, I'm gonna give my secrets away to Disney now. But anyway, when I used to go in and negotiate with Disney, I used to wear an LA Dodgers baseball cap, and I used to always look at the guy from just below the peak, and I found it really easy to play hardball and just like not budge and just say, well, if you don't like it, then I'm going. And that was it. And just draw the line in the sand. And wearing that hat just did it for me. Just wearing a baseball cap, simple as that. It's
That's
weird.
not a bad thing. No wonder Clint
I've always been like that since a kid, though.
No wonder Clint Eastwood was so tough with the cowboy hat on, right? I mean, he put that hat on, it's kind of boom. John Wayne, Clint Eastwood. Alfie, we stole some of your stuff. Ask some questions leading up to
Come on,
all those
Alfie.
things he was talking about, so you feel like you've done it, and I haven't screwed it up for you.
What was it like seeing the finished product?
Well, I had to wait for 25 months. Because
Wow.
we shot the blue screen December 6th, of 1994. So 1994 was a really good year for me. That was when I came to the States, and I got to be my hero. But I had to wait till it was January of 97 to see it from December of 94. So that was just over 2 years, longest 2 years of my life, because I couldn't tell anybody.
Right.
Right.
Who can you tell? Who would even believe you? Who's got email? No one. You know.
Who was when you were doing that, when you were dressed in the suit, when you were either doing those 8 hours you talked about or being in the blue screen, who were some of the people that were around? Was it some of the people that were those other creatures or aliens actually there? Were they filmed at different times? Who was behind the filming of it, all that kind of stuff?
No, all that footage existed. They shot that in 96. And recreating the footage that I was in, my slice of film, would have been much easier if they had kept any of the camera data, but it was just like some of the disastrous decisions Disney have made in burning Bambi artwork. Someone just trashed all the camera data for that whole movie. So they didn't have any information on the height of the camera or the lens or the distance to me. So all that footage, all the aliens that were shot in 76, and only I was comped in amongst them. And what they had to do is I had to stand on a blue screen. The other thing I had is my start position, end position, or start position, pause position, exit. And the only other piece of tape was on the blue screen on the rear wall. And that was a piece of tape which designated Harrison Ford's eye line when he would have been at the top of the ramp. So the last position he would ever be would be like this, and I should be looking at. So I had to look at where Harrison Ford had gone, and then check out make sure it was clear for everyone to go, and then exit. But there was nothing but me on that stage.
Okay.
Just blue screen, me, and pieces of tape.
Yeah, I mean, I know we all know they filmed that initially, like you said, whatever years back, 76 or whatever, with the gentleman standing in as Jabba, who they originally had as Jabba, and then Did you have any involvement with the Jabba himself that was put in there?
No, thankfully, I dodged that bullet. I was even offered it because that was done by Steve Williams. I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Williams, but
we probably should be, but we are not.
Steve Williams directed the blue screen shoot.
Okay.
George's stead. But Steve Williams was the guy who came up with the idea of animating the bones of dinosaurs and then attaching the muscles and skin to it. He was the guy that thought that. So he did the T-Rex in the original Jurassic Park and sold it with this animation. He did the water tentacle in the Abyss. He did the T-1000 coming out of the flames.
Okay.
So he was like the guy.
Yeah.
So when they said who would take on Jabba, they didn't think of me because I'm the new guy. I'd done Casper, yeah. I'd kind of knocked out. I'd done one good movie, but this was the guy. So they gave it to Steve, and so Steve had Jabba, and I was working on just all the other creatures. So scurriers, fake stormtroopers, Rontos, Dewbacks, Jawas, sand, speeders, and droids.
So you're responsible for that C-3PO speeder scene into Mos Eisley?
Yeah.
So you worked on that?
Yeah. So I had to. They gave me a ground plane, and I had to make something that I tried to make it so it felt like it had some bounce to it, like a resistance to the air. But yeah, I had to position the characters on there and kind of refer to how they'd done it. Who was sitting where and everything, just to make sure. Right. Because you're not going to use your memory. So,
and that big brontosaurus thing that reared up, was that?
Oh, yeah.
It seems like there's a story there. Please share.
I've said this story too many times on too many podcasts. I can't go through it again. But the short story is that it was a very easy shot I was waiting to get it approved. It was just a Ronto walking through the square, just as it had been in all the other shots, and a speeder. And that was about it. And I thought, easiest shot, banged it out, put it in front of George. I thought, okay, I can forget about that one. That one's done. And he's like, there's nobody leading this, Ronto. And that just started this whole series of, it just snowballed, and then more things were added, and then bigger and bigger. And it lost what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be an establishing shot, like a shot where nothing much happens. You're just saying, this is where the following piece of story takes place. Everyone up to speed? Okay, and go. So they're usually pretty short, but pretty, pretty general.
Mm-hmm.
This is the community where we are, go. And it became this big Cirque du Soleil rubbish thing. I'm like, oh my, I don't know. I fought it and fought it, and I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
But at least I wasn't involved in anything to do with the Han Solo. So that's another bullet. I thought that was a vicious rumor because I'd left straight after New Hope. I went to Disney. And someone came back from visiting ILM. Peter Paniotis, his name was. He came back from visiting ILM and said, oh, guess what I've seen? And told us all this stuff. And one of the things he said was the Greek Han not shooting first. And I'm like,
oh,
yeah, he's not going to go for that, because he tried looking at the detention scene, taking out all the shots of troopers being hit and replacing them with cameras and alarms being blown up. So he just doubled the amount, because you see the same alarms getting blown up a lot in that, but he just doubled it all up. But you never saw anyone get shot, and he screened it for us, and he said, "What do you think?" And we were like, "That sucks." And he's like, "Yep, you're right. It sucks. Fuck it. I just wanted to know." Whoops, sorry.
You're okay.
That's right.
That's what he said. That's what he said.
We're hoping anybody's listening. If they are, they'll tell us. But Mass isn't here tonight, and that's usually his line, so don't worry about it.
But he opted. He said, "You're right. I just wanted to see it. You've confirmed exactly what," and he rejected it. So I thought the same thing must be true of this vicious rumor, and so I didn't. Only when I saw the premiere, and I went to the premiere with all my then Disney friends. I was at Disney for a year at that point, so we went along to Man's Chinese Theatre, and I got to see my shot for the first time there, and also with that. Highs and lows.
Hey,
highs and lows.
That's all right. That's very cool. That's very cool. The D-Doc, Alfie, I know Brent and I have been manipulating a lot of the conversation. Do you guys have other questions that you want to hit Mark with? We can talk about all kinds of topics because we've got tons from this week, but whether it's his background and other things he's done besides Boba Fett and New Hope, or just keep digging on that because we all love Boba Fett. Go ahead, D-Doc.
Just one quick hitter. Like, what was your feeling when you finally got to see that shot that you had to wait for basically 2 years or however long to see? Like, I mean, your heart had to be pumping to finally see that, right?
Yeah, I just wanted a copy of it at that point.
Yeah,
you had to wait even longer to get a copy of it. Yeah, it was just all my friends stood up around me. They're like, because we'd been in the line outside, and there'd been a news guy coming down the line interviewing people that stood there for a long, long time, like we had.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like to be here, going to the premiere, blah, 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 interviewing people. So all my Disney friends are like, this guy's Boba Fett. This guy. And so he was like, yeah, sure, he's Boba Fett, crazy people. And moved on. And so when he came on the screen, they all stood up, and it was surreal. It was like a dream come true, only it was something I never dreamt, because I didn't think it could ever come. There was no director's cuts when I was a kid. There was no remakes. So how could I ever be my favorite character, which wasn't even in that movie,
right,
in this movie? So, because there was a period of time when New Hope existed, and so did Boba Fett. Do you remember that period? It was when the action figure was out, and that's all we knew.
Yeah.
So for a while, all I had was this. I fell in love with the action figure. That's when I did it. It was like 1979. I fell in love with Boba Fett, and action figure came out till now. This movie coming out next year. I was like, I can't wait, and it's just like my favorite genre, like spaghetti western, Clint Eastwood, Man with No Name. But it's in Star Wars. It's like, and at the time I was very much an artist, and people sort of said I was kind of, I was a little bit antisocial, but only because I was like focused on doing my art. That was it. But because I was kind of a bit of a loner, I kind of identified with Man with No Name, and that was this Star Wars. It's like, loved the armor. It reminded me of like knights in armor or Spartans. I loved the poncho that was straight out of Man with No Name, So at that time, I only knew Boba Fett and New Hope, and so I would like fantasize, about, wow, if I could be Boba Fett, and all I had was the backdrop of what I'd seen, which is New Hope. So all my action figure games were centered around things that happened in New Hope. Only they included Boba Fett now. They probably even played a Doc in Bay 94 at one point.
Well, I think
so it's so weird that came true.
You and I are probably the only two old enough to actually remember when the Boba Fett figure came out. Alfie, you were 2 or so?
Yeah, I was like 2 years old.
Yeah, so
I'm jealous.
I remember when
I'm
that figure.
I'm a bit jealous.
That figure came out. You're exactly right, because you're sitting there and you're going, now wait a minute. My life has changed because this movie came out in 1977. I want to buy everything that I can of it. I want my parents to give me everything. And then they drop Boba Fett, and you're looking around going, whoa, what is this, right? And you're going, how does this fit? He wasn't in that movie, right? What is this going to bring us in the future? So I mean, yeah, it was shocking to think that they were just dropping that. Boom. Yes, we had the holiday special, which he was in for a few minutes, which I remember that still. That stuck with me. But when that figure came out, you're like, whoa, we're going to the next level with this next movie. So yeah, that was just so great. And you're right, to put that together, very, very cool. And all the Fett fans who said, hey, he didn't get enough love across Empire and Jedi, that definitely made their day to see him pop up there as well.
Yeah. I was really glad they included him. The only thing is that on the day, when I did these two, I told you about the 2 times I did the 4-hour things in the suit, and this is up at Skywalker Ranch. And when they put the suit together, they put the skull on this side. And I said, it's the wrong side. It's be that side. And they said, well, it's on that side now. And I thought, I'm not going to argue, because this is the first kind of time I really got to have fun in the suit. So I didn't want to jeopardize that. That's fine, fine, forget it. Don't care. Let's just do this. I want to go. And so I just had to pretend to be Boba Fett for 4 hours. It's such a hard ask for me. I really earned my money. I volunteered.
There you go.
So what exactly did you do for 4 hours?
They had a summit for all the license holders at Skywalker Ranch, invited them all, and they were going to have this idea where they thought, oh, this is going to be a great idea. We'll get some people to dress up as we got a really tall guy to play Vader, and we'll get some guys to dress up as stormtroopers. And at one point, once we've shown the re-release special, they weren't special editions back then. It was just going to be a re-release, and there was only going to be a New Hope special edition. The day I left ILM, they only ever intended doing New Hope, never any others. Otherwise, I would have stayed probably. I wouldn't have left. But what they wanted to do is have stormtroopers come down. Vader comes out. We would like you to join us for cocktails or something, and they're going to have drinks. And when they put out an email saying who wants to be a stormtrooper, you can imagine how many people replied. Like everybody at ILM replied, and everyone. So they said, well, because we've got so many people, volunteers, remember, I did it for free. With volunteers, we can make it a much bigger deal. We can actually recreate the Cantina bar as the bar for the guests to go to. Have people dress up as the aliens, some dry ice smoke, have the Cantina band miming in the corner, have stormtroopers at the door checking IDs, have the droids there maybe. They didn't put people in the droids or make them move, they're just standing there, but the land speeder was there. And Don V's, who I had befriended and knew I was like the biggest Boba Fett fan at ILM, he called me up. And I thought he was going to call me up to say, I've got a part as a stormtrooper. And so he said, I'm sorry, you're not going to be a stormtrooper. Oh, damn it. My heart just like died. I thought, maybe I'm just too short, like Luke or something, you know? That's what it is. I'm only 5'10", 10.5. He goes, he goes, I was thinking of maybe another character that you might be interested in. I'm like, oh, don't tease me like that. And he's like, no. He goes, I can't promise you it because if you don't fit the flight suit, you can't do it. But come over. I went the next day. Come over one lunchtime and try it on. If you fit the flight suit that everything attaches to, you can do it. Otherwise, we'll have to find you another character. So it's like, oh, nervous, going over there and putting that flight suit on. It literally was like my Cinderella slipper moment. There's God rays coming through the ceiling. There's angels singing. And it's like, you know, because sometimes you put stuff on, you order stuff, and you put it on, it's not right. I was dreading that. That's what I was dreading. Like being way too tight and me like trying to full set the zipper up. Like I can fit. Like Mr. Incredible.
You would have sold it anyway. You would have sold it anyway.
You just sucked in the gut or whatever, right? No, it reminds me. It reminds me of Chaplin, the movie with Robert Downey Jr. Remember when he said, "Oh, here's how I got the hat," and made it all mystical and the light shining down. And he was like, "No, okay, that didn't really happen. I just grabbed a hat, put it on, and walked out." Right. So, but yeah, I was envisioning that when you were getting. So, no, that's awesome.
But that was the best time in the suit because I'm walking around the cantina bar in low light with aliens that are all reacting. It was like better than VR because you could bump into things and react with them. They were real. And there's one part where someone came over. You weren't allowed to talk. They said, don't talk. Just do it like Mickey Mouse in Disneyland. Just kind of be pantomime. I want to do it as you wish. I want to say that. No, they can't say it. Okay. Just once. No, you can't say it. All right. Back came though. He said, can you come over here? I want you to arrest that guy standing over there. So I was like, so he leads me over. So I go over to the guy. He's the president of Canada Toys or somebody. He turns around. Said, I got his hand up behind his arm and I escorted him out the bar. As soon as I got to the door, I let him go. And he said, do you mind if you can come back and stand at the table for a minute? All right. So I went over. So the guys came over. He goes, we always had trouble with the antenna, the rangefinder, you know, because they end up adding it just as a piece molded onto the helmet, didn't they? The rangefinder on the original Fett figure.
Gotcha.
He goes, we messed it up. We didn't know about this rangefinder till the last minute. Could you come over? We want to take some notes. So I had to stand there. It was the gun and everything, and they got their cigarettes packets and they chucked out the cigarettes and they ripped them open, and they were like drawing and stuff like that, and drawing stuff and going outside and making sketches and stuff like that. And that was the Power of the Force figure that came out. I must be going like this. Obviously, I was thinking it's just that too far.
You were roiding it up for that event.
I was roiding up way too much, you know. Even 3PO was roiding it up a bit.
Yeah. Believe me, I bought those for my son because he was old enough to get those toys when they came out. And I remember looking at that going, wow, quite a bit of difference there. They were all in HGH or something. Alfie, Fett is your favorite character. I need to hear some more in-depth responses and questions from you.
Well, not so much about Boba Fett, but I'd like to know, working on the special edition so much, was there a shot that you saw in the film that just really blew your mind, maybe opened up like where the whole advancements in visual effects, where it could go, what could be possible next?
A shot in which movie?
A New Hope special edition.
Oh, when I was working on it?
Or when you saw not only working on it, but when you saw it in the theater for the first time.
Oh, I mean, the thing that I told you that, I was waiting till January of 97 to see it. And so, like I said, it was the first time I saw myself on the screen. It was the first time I saw someone had messed up one of my scenes and done a thumping robot. When did that happen? Like, that happened after I left. Saw that for the first time. Saw the Greedo thing for the first time. But the one that I didn't ever expect to see was the new Sandcrawler. And for me, that was like, oh my God, that was like, I always loved the Sandcrawler. And I don't know why, it moves slow. There's something about this lumbering, rusting Hulk that I've loved ever since a kid. I loved it.
Yeah,
So
I love that shot of the Sandcrawler.
And I'm so glad they did it practically as well. Like, thank you. Because I was always like, when it comes to CG, I love mixing CG with the live action play like we were doing on New Hope. But I wasn't too big a fan on the complete CG drop-in, all of practical. And I was pretty disappointed the overuse of it in the prequels, but I'm happy they did, because they saw the disadvantage of taking it that far. They learned their lesson the hard way. It just took the prequel to learn that lesson, which is a shame. But I don't know. I think the one that blew me away, I'd have to say the Sandcrawler. And I was like, oh my God, this is the future. This is kind of like the direction I'm taking it. CG isn't the way. It isn't. This is the way. It is this kind of combo of the two. There should be a mix. It should be purely CG. It should be practical where practical is needed, and CG where CG is needed, and even a blend of the two, practical in front of CG. Works.
Alfie, you reminded me with that one. Wasn't it Jedi when they were out on the skiff when they added all the banthas out on the desert?
Yeah.
To where even that scene, even though it was the CG side of it, there was something about taking it to where it's just, instead of being that flat desert with nothing going on, and being able to add that in there to put some contrast in. You're right. Some of those shots across the special edition, while we joke about some of them, there were some that were like, wow, this really enhanced the movie. Go ahead,
The
Brent.
Stormtrooper in the special edition for the time, the one on the dewback.
Oh,
seeing it on the big screen the first time, I thought
my favorite,
just hadn't seen anything like that before.
My favorite, the piece of animation I was most proud of was the Stormtrooper dismounting the dewback. It was in a shot. There was an over the shoulder on 3PO and R2 looking at the cantina, and I said to George, I said, do you mind if I have the dewback sniff the backpack of the guy that's in the plate? Just to have him interact with something in the plate. It might marry the CG to the plate a bit better than just having it stand there, doing this or something. He's like, yeah, go ahead, let's see it. And I thought, while I was doing that, I'll make the other guy dismount. And so I got the producer, Tom Kennedy, to walk up on a step ladder, and I videoed him jumping off halfway. And I just changed the pose from being him on a step ladder to him straddling the knee and the elbow of the dewback, and then land in the same place. But I was really pleased the way that it turned out. I think it helped shooting that reference and having that as as a guide. But George, when we showed it to him, he thought it was motion capture. And so for me, that was the hugest compliment. That's why I'm
nice. There's
two things I'm the most proud of, and that was one of them. That was like the big one that George really responded to. And you can't have a better compliment than George Lucas thinking that your animation is real.
Yep. Go ahead, Brent.
Well, that kind of leads into the question that I wanted to ask, is outside of Star Wars, the other stuff that you've done, what is one shot or what is one like this was awesome and you feel proud of it and it looked great. Like you said, there are two things you're proud of. So what's that other one?
So the other one is I worked on Mickey's Philhar Magic, which is a 3D Mickey thing, and they wanted me to do the tornado at the end. So okay, there's the finale. Like there's a nice chunk to be given, you know, to finish. And in it, I really studied. I said I'll do it, but I want 3 days to be able to pull all my reference and study Mickey and Donald running and doing all the actions. I don't want to make it up. I want it to come from the classics. I want to do my homework. And they gave me the 3 days. I was really generous, and so when I did the Mickey animation, he runs in, skids through a hole, and big take, and it's all in silhouette because he's inside of the maelstrom. But Roy Disney Jr. Came up and he said that up until he saw my animation, he said that the Mickey animation had felt more like a toy come to life rather than Mickey. And he goes, "This is Mickey in 3D." And I'm like, oh, it's like, I didn't need, some people really want Oscars. This is enough for me. Just that. This was like, wish someone had filmed that. This is before we had videos and cameras. On phones, sorry, cameras on phones. But
you know,
I'm really proud of.
See, I'm really proud of that we actually have 4 or 5 people here who've we've talked about Star Wars over 100 times on air. That's, you know, there's a lot of people who are giving us congratulations. George is going to reach out soon, right? On how well we've done on the podcast. I mean, yeah.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. we haven't worn the suit. We haven't been in the movie. We haven't done anything but compliment on Mickey Mouse and on Star Wars. We probably need to work on that. So can
I show you one other thing?
Yeah.
Only because the biggest benefit that I never foresaw was doing all these conventions and making friends with my heroes, which are the guys, you know. I feel like I am an intruder when I'm with these guys. I feel like I'm an outsider, but they're just like, you know, they're sending me emails and messages all day. Lovely people. I never foresaw that. But I was in Mexico City and I was sitting next to a guy, I didn't know him. We had chatted all night. Had this meal this was after a convention. And we ended up walking back to the hotel, which was like a 30-minute struggle through a monsoon. And so we went through this, we ran the gauntlet together and we drowned rats by the time we got to the Holiday Inn. And so I went to the next day and it turns out he was Kim Simmons. And Kim Simmons is the guy that did all the photographs for all the box covers, you know, all the stuff on the blisters on the back. It's not
oh, really?
All the package design, all the photographs for packaging. He photographs. He has a book called The Man Who Shot. Oh, I've got it. The Man Who Shot Luke Skywalker. This guy. He did all of these.
Oh, nice.
You know his pictures.
Yes.
You know them. You poured through these brochures and pamphlets, and he shows all the ones that he tried that were rejected. Great book.
It's called The Man Who Shot Luke Skywalker.
The Man Who Shot Luke Skywalker, Kim Simmons. Anyway, he because we kind of run this gauntlet together, we had this kind of bond. And he said, he goes, when I get back home, I'm going to send you a Boba Fett, a proper Boba Fett. I'm going to send it. So he sent me this. This is it. See if I can get it without reflection.
Oh no, that's great.
But I said to him, Kim, I've poured over all of your photographs. Looking at the book, apart from the ones you rejected, I know all the ones you picked. I don't recognize this one. He goes, no, I did this one just for you.
Wow. So
Kim Simmons sent it to me.
I love that book. It's kind of like a coffee table kind of style book, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's the best. He gave me, I bought this one and he gave me the second one free. This is the first one. But the first one has all the stuff about Boba in the back of it.
Oh man.
It shows, and I'm
track those
really good
down.
friends with Jim Swearingen, if you know Jim Swearingen. He's a really good friend of mine as well. So it has all of his mock-ups that he did. It goes into the ones that didn't make it.
Was it? So
Great book.
Jim was in that story, The Toys Who Made Us, right? On Netflix.
Yeah. Because I saw that just before I went to this con. That was the con. It was 2018, I believe. 2018 summer of, and and I met those guys, and we've been friends ever since. But I never would have foreseen that, and that's one of the best things about doing these cons is having Daniel Logan calling me up on FaceTime. Daniel Logan loves FaceTime. I love you, brother, if you're watching or listening.
Well, we will tag him on it, so let him know he's got a shout, because Alfie here seems to have the magic touch. Just as goofy fans, Alfie seems to post the right things, and Daniel Logan always seems to comment. So we love Daniel Logan.
He is on his social media. He's got it down to an art form. He's always telling me what I do wrong.
Well, I'll tell you
I'm
what.
a slow learner.
I tell you what, we have bombarded you with a ton of questions. I know as we get going through these other things, we'll hit you up with some more. But why don't we we'll take a quick turn here, and we'll still be very related to you, because a lot of things have to do with Boba Fett. But I'm just going to throw out there some things that since last week, well, actually in the last 24 hours, have just bombarded us with news that I know we all want to talk about. The first one, not major, really big news, but I thought it was a really cool story that Giancarlo Esposito, when asked at a convention recently, who was his favorite co-star to work with in The Mandalorian, and he threw out there Gina Carano, and I think he approached it the right way, and he said, whatever her politics are, let's throw that out. Whatever. She was great to work with, a great person, super sweet, super nice, hard worker, and
perfect for the role.
Exactly. And I think for me anyway, that's the way I pretty much approach everybody. We joke, Brent and I, there's 20 things we're exactly aligned on. There's 20 things we are the exact polar opposite on. But instead of fighting and saying, well, you like that and I like this or whatever, we joke about those things, and then we concentrate our conversations on the things we're similar in. And I love that Giancarlo just said, hey, that stuff doesn't bother me. Every day I was on the set with her, it was great to work with her. And your guys, any thoughts besides that? I mean, I thought it was a very well done thing, and I cross my fingers and hope someday she'll be back. I know she won't, but man, I just thought it was really cool for him to say that. Any thoughts, Brent, D-Doc, Alfie, Mark?
I wish more people had that way of looking at it.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel that Disney, I said this to them when I worked for them, but they worry too much. But, no, they do. They do, because I remember we had to watch The Incredibles with the sound down and pick apart why it was successful, and at the time more successful than Disney movies. What are they doing? We're not. And I was like, well, one of the big Disney rules is no gunplay, no smoking. It starts with gunplay, Incredibles. It's great. They chase a big car chase, and he has to save the cat, but there's cops and robbers. Edna Mode with the cigarette holder. It's like, why are we here? I understand you don't want to offend anybody, and nobody hates water, but who loves water? I mean, who loves drinking water? I mean, nobody hates it. Everyone drinks it, but nobody says, you know what? Just give me. If I had $1 million, I'd just get the best glass of water. Now, who would say that? Nobody. So I don't understand. Also, I kept saying to them, why are we making movies about human characters using humans? Why don't we go the Robin Hood route and tell Robin Hood with animals that fit the descriptions? And then, no, we don't want to do that. And they went for years. They did Pocahontas, Hunchback, Tarzan, They did all these human movies, and it's only to Zootopia or Zootropolis or whatever, from whichever side of the Atlantic you're on.
I love
They
Zootopia.
made money again. It's like, you see, I don't. It's hard. Disney are hard to convince. They worry too much.
Agreed. I agree.
Disney, but you worry too much.
Go ahead, D-Doc.
Yeah, I was just kind of excited to hear that, just because it's good for me. It's just like refreshing to hear that you can still be friends with someone even if you might disagree about things like that. And I remember when I recently, I never really watched much of the behind the scenes Mandalorian, and after I watched the one Luke Skywalker episode, I went back and started watching some more behind the scenes stuff. And this was a decent amount of time after Gina was kicked off the show. And I saw a lot of behind the scenes stuff with her, and I'm like, man, it looks like she has such a great relationship with the cast. I remember I was like, I wish someone from the cast would come out, because I know that, you know, just seeing her relationship with like Carl Weathers and like the different directors and everything, I'm like, someone just come out and just be like, I got her back. She's a good person. We might disagree about X, Y, and Z, but she's my friend, you know? And it was just good to hear something like that finally, you know?
Agreed.
It's tough. It's tough to, because it's hard, because, you know, anything they write, people are going to believe, whether it happened or not. I mean, they said I threw a tantrum about Slave One renaming, and it was hardly a tantrum. It was more a depressed, sad acknowledgement that it was going to happen just because it was news. It'd never go away. It's forever going to have that stain on it. But they blew it up that they said, oh, it was like outraged, I think it was the word they used. Like I was throwing tables over in my living room or something. It was like, come on. But they wrote it, so it must have happened. I just can't remember, I guess.
Yeah, no, that was a big thing, and I know you had plenty of comments when those kind of things happened with the Slave One. I mean,
because of what they've written, because they will write what is going to sell or get, you know, people's backs up. So they're obviously going to exaggerate what they want to, and so, you know.
No, I got you.
Our society doesn't.
I was going to say, whoever they pick on, it's that damage. It doesn't matter who stands up for you. That it's like an atom bomb going off.
And even if they don't stand up for you, our society is so quick just to read the headline and react to the headline.
That's
so they won't even. They won't even
read the atom bomb.
100%.
The atom bomb. Yeah.
The headline, it means something. It may be a completely different in the meat of the article. It may be read differently, but the article, the clickbait to get you to read it, is what people will then react upon and not even take the time to dive into what it means. Yeah. So like actors are actors. Some people are despicable people, but sometimes they can put in characters that you want to watch over and over again. I mean, it's just.
You know, one of the things I take into all my movies, all my music, is if I'm worried about what any musician or actor or director's political, religious, or sexual views are, I'm not paying attention to what I'm supposed to be paying attention to. I want to know what happens on the screen. I want to hear the music go into my ears. If they want to go and do some really weird stuff outside of that on their own, that's their thing to do. Just like I don't want them saying, hey, I know you listen to my music, but guess what? You don't have the same beliefs that I do, so stop listening to my music. I don't think we're at a point that we want that to happen, right? So just enjoy it for what it's worth, and just take it in and say, I live my life, you live yours. Here's what's on the screen in front of me. So not to take us down that long haul there, but the other thing, another thing before the big news that came up was, and Joey sent it to me, and then we started bouncing it around, new Star Wars animated series before Solo, focusing on Crimson Dawn and Darth Maul, with the possibilities of Sam Witwer, Paul Bettany, D. Bradley Baker, and Matt Lanter being back involved with a show like that. Does that excite any of you? Do any of you want to see that? If they're not possibly going to make a Solo 2, does any of this mean anything with the underworld, everything like that? Somebody raise your hand and tell me you want to talk about it. Alfie, go right ahead.
Of course we want to see this. Any more Maul is just, icing on the cake. We can't get enough of that guy. And from what I'm reading, I think this is pretty far along.
Really?
Yeah. I've read a couple different articles and pieced together with stuff that I'd read in the past. I think they were kind of stringing along the hopes that this would be live action, but I think live action Maul is kind of dead for a while.
Ray Park, is that what
Yeah.
we're talking about? Okay, yeah. So I remember I brought it up to you guys in a show a long time ago where I was talking about Matt Lanter, who was on that great show on Netflix, which I really enjoyed, Jupiter's Legacy. Nobody else did because it's gone. But he said, Anakin's never going to go away. I'm working on some things right now. And then the breaks came out and I said, don't talk about that anymore. Could we be seeing a Matt Lanter playing a Vader during this time frame? Or are we looking at flashbacks back to Anakin involved with the Crimson Dawn? That's just throwing it out there. Mark, you had a comment you were going to make about this new animated series.
Oh, I was just going to say that I consider Darth Maul the Boba Fett of the prequels. You know, introduce a great character and then pulling the rug from under you kind of thing. But I always equated those two together. That's what I was going to say about Darth Maul.
Well, we have a cat that entered the chat. Hi, cat.
And on the subject before, I was going to just say, if everyone in the whole world was of the same opinion, how boring would the world be? I mean, when you think about it, if everyone did have the same opinion, which is kind of like, well, that's, you know, everyone that's enforcing theirs obviously has that as a mindset. Mm-hmm. How boring would the world be? It'd be incredibly mind-numbingly boring. You know.
I agree. Dave, anything on the animated series or Brent?
I would love a live action Maul. I'll tell you that. Anything live action with Maul, man, I would be jacked about it. I mean, I remember when I saw the end of the Solo movie and he came in, that really did just like, that took the movie up a couple notches because I'm just like, man, are we going to see live action Maul again? At that point, I hadn't watched Clone Wars either. So I didn't know that technically was, I guess, post Clone Wars Maul, correct?
Yep.
So, yeah, just like Mark said, I mean, that's perfect. Darth Maul is the Boba Fett of the prequel trilogy. He really is. I mean, he's in it for a short amount of time, but he just was a polarizing character. I mean, my little guy said he wants he had his little toy magazine that came in, and he's looking through it, you know, where you put the stickers on it for Christmas, and he saw Darth Maul's lightsaber. He doesn't even know Star Wars that well, but he's like, that's Darth Maul's lightsaber. He's like, I want that from Santa. I'm like, all right.
You know, I think
cool.
I think you're right on the Darth Maul thing. I also think we all agree that Mass is probably the only one who will be against this series because he is an anti-Darth Maul person after he got cut in half. Go ahead, Brent.
So I think I am also on the opposite side of you guys. The prequel era is not something that has ever really grabbed me. Like, it is not something to go on the news from last week. I do not think Mr. Christensen was such a fantastic actor. It never really, like, watching him never really brought me into it. I never really believed he was a character. For me, it was like watching somebody trying to act, and it wasn't watching a character. So the prequel era, while I will probably watch it, has never been something that has a passion of mine. But I know I am of the minority on this, 100%.
And that's people thinking differently, Brent. There you go.
Yeah, I think the prequels. I agree with you. I was envisioning a young Vader to be much more like the Omen, the kid in the Omen, like very, very dark. You know, dark features, dark hair. He doesn't do that much, the kid in the Omen, but you scared, you know, it scares the bejesus out of you. Just his stoic face, it just scares the bejesus out of you. I thought I was hoping that he would cast somebody in more of that kind of line. But I was of the same mindset when I finished the prequels. I had it in my mind. Maybe I was worried. Maybe I'm one of these guys that is never going to love anything other than the original trilogy, and I really was sad that I was that closed off. And it wasn't until Rogue One, Solo movie, and Mandalorian that changed, and I'm so glad that they pulled me out of this worry, because it's I don't know I was concerned. I wanted so much to love Phantom Menace.
And I will go back. Another thing is, so again, Hayden, for whatever reason, to me, I'm just watching a man try to act, and it looks like he's taking acting classes while he's on screen. I also think it's the gratuitous use of CGI, and it wasn't really blended well, and it was an overuse of the CGI, and it was overly cartoony. And not to say I'll go to bed watching the prequel movies. They're just not a timeline that has ever really wrapped my heart. So if you go to the Rebels and the building of the Rebels and the rebellion and that early rebellion to get into Rogue One. So that's why I'm super pumped for Andor, because I think from where that's at, that is a time frame that is in my mind really interesting. And I know that I'm not in that same world. I'll watch it because it's Star Wars, right? And there will be good things and there'll be bad things, but that is the timeline where I'm most interested in, and prequels. And so, I'll watch this series, but did you say Mace Windu as well? You have not only
no. You got Sam Witwer, who would play Maul.
Okay.
Paul Bettany, who would play Dryden Voss. D. Bradley Baker, no idea.
Playing clones.
And Matt Lanter, who of course was Anakin. So could be anything.
I thought I saw something connected to that also had Mace. So I was going to say, not only will Mass have a problem with Maul, he would also have a problem with Mace. Two people that fell 1,000 feet and have yet to die.
There you go. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, but the biggest disappointment in the sequels, I wish they hadn't changed the Stormtrooper. We had that evolution of the Stormtrooper into the Trooper, and it was a Trooper kind of like from that point onwards. And I wouldn't have minded if they carried that through, or, because they did pull through the TIE fighters and stuff like that, stuff you could relate to. That was one of the biggest disappointments. And again, I found it really hard to embrace the sequels as much as I can, like the Mandalorian. I find it much easier to say, yes, solo movie, give me, I'd love a solo too. I loved how Howard cut that movie together. He really kind of had lengthy 70s long shots, and he would blend really cleverly from one sequence to another, because she would be talking in one location about going to Lando's place and end the same line walking into Lando's place. So it bridged the gap elegantly, just so elegantly. Ron Howard, love him as a director. So I respect what he did, trying to take it back to that 70s cutting.
I like that you see it that way, because for me, I wouldn't be able to tell you a 70s cut in from a 90s cut in or whatever, but I tell you what, it felt like, honestly, there was a lot of Solo that felt a lot like Star Wars to me, that it just didn't get it got a bum rap on a lot of things. So let's just hit the biggest news item of the day. The Book of Boba Fett trailer. Secondary, you can add on there that Jennifer Beals is playing a very attractive Twi'lek in that movie, or in that show. But that's just a side note to all this fun stuff. I mean, it starts off, guys, and we can go through. I wrote down notes a little bit here, but starts off with the Beaumark monk. Is that how you say it? Is that the proper way?
That's the way I
monk
always said
spider
it.
Walking across the desert, going to Jabba's palace. I mean, that right there, I was like, oh yes, like here we go, Return of the Jedi feel. But I mean, just and the next scene is Lucasfilm in the coloring in the backdrop with the Boba Fett coloring across Lucasfilm. So what were your guys' thoughts? I mean, I thought there were some really good things. I mean, let's face it, we've got a month and a half, or a little over a month and a half to get ready for this. Was everybody else as stoked as I was? And hit on any key points you want. Brent, you get your hand up.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Here we go. It's visual. It's visual.
No. Well, but is it? Where did they come from? And how did you know that was a monk carrying a brain in the juice
Come on.
because he was on screen for about 5 seconds in Return of the Jedi.
How did you know?
Because somebody else told me.
yeah,
Because I had never heard of it. I had no idea what it was. I saw somebody make a comment about a Beaumark monk, so I went and looked it up.
It's been in print for like 30 years.
It's been in print. It's been in print, Joe. It's been in print.
It's not my
You
fault.
saw
you didn't read it.
I hadn't so when I was a kid, right? So when I went and looked, then they showed the picture of like 3PO, and then they showed the spider walk behind him. Legit, it's not. I don't even think it's 5 seconds. It's probably on screen for about like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So I didn't other than the Book of Alfie, how did you guys know that?
The book, The Tales of the Bounty Hunters, I think, or is it Tales of Jabba's Palace?
It's also
One
in the
of the
Return of the
two. Jabba's
Jedi.
Palace, I think.
It's also in the Return of the Jedi.
There's a whole story
yeah.
about it.
Come on, Brent. Come on, man.
I was actually hoping, because it was called the Book of Boba Fett, I just added in the book of, for me, I was, not to sound disappointed, but I was a bit. I was hoping it'd be a collection of the stories of all the things he did throughout his career that made him the badass he is today. And I was hoping there'd be a lot of flashbacks to where he interacted on First Make Bosk, or where they worked together for the first time, or how he got that den from Cad Bane, or how he scuffed up certain iconic scuffs on his armor. So when I saw the trailer, I was a tiny bit disappointed.
But
it was carrying it forward, and I'm like, I wanted to know.
You don't think there'll be any flashbacks in there at all?
I hope so. I hope there is. I mean, I would if they're not going to do it. I'd say Disney, don't do it. I'll direct those. I'll do those for you. I'll come up with the stories.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think we're going there.
I think so too. Alfie or D-Doc, any first initial thoughts from it?
go ahead, Alfie. Hit it.
Man, this is only a minute of probably the first 2 episodes, maybe 3, if he follows the formula he's used with the Mandalorian trailers. But I really dug it. I next to Star Wars, mafia movies are my favorite genre, and this was given some serious Godfather vibes. My other Star Wars chats, guys were all upset. Oh, we're getting nice Boba, or we don't want nice Boba. Don Corleone seemed nice too until you woke up with a horse's head in your bed. In that last line of the trailer, speak freely. If that's not an open-ended, loaded, suggestion to your soon-to-be enemies, I don't know what is.
Yeah. I want to know if he said that before or after Finnick said if you spoke like that to Jabba, he would feed you to his menagerie. I want to know if he said speak freely.
I bet
after
it's after.
If he says that after, like that'd be okay.
Yeah, who wants to wear a target on their head?
Right. Yeah. We'll feed you to the menagerie, but speak freely. Yeah, go ahead and speak freely.
So I saw a lot of people talking about Pedro Pascal talking in this. Was he in some of the voiceover parts of this? I'm not as attuned in the ear.
It kind of sounds like him.
That's what I was wondering when it had that one character sitting at the seat that he was walking up to. It sounded like his voice. What did he say? Did he say like you sit on your old boss's chair or something like that?
Yeah,
it really did sound like his voice. So I'm excited for Fennec. This seems like it's going to be a big evolution of her character too. I think the two of them are freaking awesome together, honestly. Like the two of them just look like such a great duo. And I don't know. I'm jacked about it. Like Alfie said, I think they gave us a snippet of maybe like the first 2 episodes, and I'm very curious to see where this show leads and how it folds into this bigger story that they're trying to build, I think.
Where did this Athens of Tatooine come from?
Well, it's a big planet.
The big cityscape? I don't know. I don't know what city it is.
I mean, I've been led to believe that it's just a bunch of dust heaps with Tusken Raider villages and a few settlements throughout. And
just in the Mandalorian show, they said there was 5 major settlements.
This is true.
They said there's only 2 that are like Mos Espa and Mos
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 Eisley
Eisley,
and
Mos
Mos
Eisley,
Espa.
and then the third one where he went to go get eaten by the crate dragon. It was a
Who
different one.
knows? Maybe they're not on Tatooine.
This is true.
That's true. Okay, I'll give you that.
Well, yeah, because somebody was saying it gave him Jeddah vibes, but I mean, I didn't feel like Jeddah vibes on that one. I
Just
don't
because
know.
of sitting in that crater, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was gorgeous. I will say that. It
I
looked
did like the
great.
crater shot.
Yes. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous. I love the line where he said, Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect. So again, Alfie.
Can those mean the same thing? I'll make you respect me through fear.
I mean,
You earn respect,
Okay, I mean,
but
I
you
understand
can
that,
earn your respect through fear.
right?
I do think it does fall right in the
It's very
Godfather
political
/
way of saying it.
Yes.
Yeah.
right.
This was the scene. This whole trailer was the scene from The Godfather 1, where they had the meeting with the 5 families, and they're all hugging, and we're making peace. And as soon as they get back in the car, he says, I got to kill this guy. This is the guy that betrayed me. This third guy, yeah, we can work with him. Get on it.
I see that from that the dinner table scene too, because he's talking all nice and they're talking and they all start looking at each other like, do you want to like? There's some worry on the captain's faces. At least that's what I picked up from them when they were looking back and forth.
The other thing, Mark, when you were talking about the things you want to see, one of the things that I think everybody wants to see now that we've seen him in Mando series, and now that everybody has that vision in their head that he went to the Sarlacc pit, he got out somehow, he lived with the Tusken Raiders or pretended to be a Tusken Raider, to see those four or 5 Tusken Raiders walking across the sand. I mean, does that almost lead up to the fact that you're going to see a Boba Fett hand coming out of the Sarlacc and pulling himself out, and there they are, and he, obviously we know he communicates with them, right? Or Mando does, so I'm assuming Boba does as well. But did it give you any inclination that that's leading to that? That's the first thing that popped into my head when I saw the Tusken Raiders.
I wouldn't say it popped into my head, but when I watch it next time, I'm going to see if it does. But I did write when I was at ILM. I started writing a book of Boba Fett's exploits of escaping from the Sarlacc, and I think they have the first 4 or 5 chapters on the Boba Fett fan club website for people to read. But I was worried. I was kind of like worried of watching Mandalorian to see what I'd have to change, because if I have to make it fit in with everything that they've done,
Right.
there's a couple of details I've got to change. But I've always been fascinated because that's one of the 2 most asked questions at cons is how cool was it to be Boba Fett? Is the first one, and did you escape the Sarlacc? And for years and years, I said yes. Well, I'm here, aren't I? At the con, that's my big joke. But now I can actually say, ever since the Mandalorian came out, I can say yes.
Right.
But when I watch it next time, I'll keep that in mind. See if that springs to mind. But it didn't.
Did Brent? I was gonna say, for anybody, think of other things you saw in this or made you think of. Brent, go ahead.
All right, so real quick, and this is for the book of Alfie, right? So Mark, he seems to be like our knowledgeable expert on things. What were the retractable shield guys? Who were they connected to? Like, what group were they connected to? And then there's the other one where it looked like they were in a room surrounded by cycler weapons with a couple of humanoid, very human-looking guys shooting back, almost wearing the same type of clothes as the same clothes of the people pulling out the riot shields. Go, Alfie.
Well, I don't know exactly who they are, but
okay. I didn't know if they were
shields. I instantly thought of, I think it was the Princess Leia book where they had the personal shields like that. The guy who was trying to marry her. No, this is the EU book. The Courtship of Princess Leia, I think.
Princess Leia by Dave Wolverton.
Yeah. The prince that she was with, he had a shield like that.
The Gungans did too, man. Gungans had
Gungans
shields.
have
Gungans, yeah, they had
but That wasn't a Gungan shield. The Gungan shields were blue.
I know.
This was a red. This was
Those
a red
ones are a
shield.
lot cooler.
They were, and the only reason why I asked you is I didn't know if there was a specific reference to something from the EU that I wasn't aware of. But I
Not that I could think of in the past day or so.
Yeah.
Or if they were like Shadow Collective, or if they were Pike Syndicate, or if they were that color of clothing, that color of shield connected them to some organization, which I believe will come from that, right? I have a feeling, because it looked like they were wearing uniforms. It could have been just the cops of the area that they were at.
Very true. Could be the security, right? I mean, riot gear. Could be any of that. Were there any other parts for any of you guys that stood out where you said, this makes me want to watch it, this makes them even more interesting? I don't know what that was, what the heck's going on there. Obviously, the internet did start going a little crazy when Jennifer Beals, again, they got brought up that she was going to be playing that I say Twi'lek. I know it could be Twi'lek. I say Twi'lek. I don't know why. But somebody even put the Flashdance music together with the word Twi'lek in it. I love that. It was on Twitter somewhere. So she's a Twi'lek. Anyway, any other spots that made you guys go, wow, this looks like I want it to look, or I don't know where this is going? Anything? Go ahead, Alfie.
I think for me, this little snippet of the plot really got me wanting to see it, because you know how my mind works. We talk about this stuff all the time. If you're showing me him talking to other crime bosses, there's a bigger fish here that he's trying to draw out. Is it Bosk? Is it Cad Bane? I'm going to take out these little guys, or either knock them all out or make an alliance, and that's going to bring out the big fish that I want my revenge against.
Okay.
And I know Brent is not a big fan of speculation, but this does seem like the perfect series to sprinkle in some more EU characters, like a Talon Card, or even canon characters like Hondo. Could we ever possibly see the shipping city of Batu appear in live action?
Okay. Hey, look, I mean, Disney's throwing a lot of money into Batu. It'd be really good to see it start connecting in visually. I know there's books about it and there's comics about it, but what a great time. I mean, it's part of the sequel trilogy era kind of setup, right? So what a good time to kind of merge that in with these things that are happening after Return of the Jedi. Go ahead, Brent.
So my problem with speculation is it begins to build hype that may or may, and no. So this is why I say that, is because I think I feel like from the reaction that I've seen, which it's mixed, I believe that there's a lot of really strong Boba people that were like Mark and wanted to see more evidence of the flashback stuff. And I think that, like, if we need to temper our enthusiasm in a way, and that's why the speculation starts to build, and then you don't necessarily get what you were expecting or what you were getting to, and then that creates the backlash, which isn't necessarily needed, because it could be a very good series. It just wasn't the series that you were expecting, and that's my problem with it, is because I think people build, and then they get let down. So I want to stay even keel. And I think this also comes from my view of the Visions trailers. I got a view of the Visions anime trailers that there was going to be a lot more action, and they were a lot slower and more story driven than what I expected. So it was a little bit harder for me to get into them, because I was expecting to be a lot more hardcore action type things. So that's where I'm at with it. Like, I liked it for sure. Like, It looks like it's going in the strange, and I would love to see them. I can see Honda working in perfectly in this situation. I would like to see them bring in the EU, because that they drop nuggets in. That's Filoni and Favreau's, their MO is, we're going to make it feel relevant, and we're going to start dropping in a story or two here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something from Shadow Collective, or what is it, Zizor? Because that's
Prince Zizor.
He's dead.
I'm of the same thinking, and I was the same way with the Mandalorian series. I've only watched the trailer, I think, twice, and I don't think I want to watch it anymore, because exactly what you said. If I ever have too much of an idea going in that usually discredits what I'm looking at. Just because it's different, it doesn't. It could be better.
Sure.
But because it's different, it already has a mark against it. And I'm of the same opinion. So I really don't watch all the scrutiny YouTubes where they're picking apart Easter eggs. I'd rather see it, virgin.
And
as virgin as you can.
That's one of the reasons why, like, I don't try to make us do a frame by frame on our show. We've never like really done, even during the movies. So far, we haven't done hey, we're going to watch a movie together and nitpick it the whole way through. I'd much rather watch it and come back and say, what did I like? What I didn't like? All that. Same thing with these trailers. Let's talk about them. What did you think? But I think if we do them frame by frame, then we fall into that the more nitpicking instead of the, hey, I really like this, or hey, that's got me excited, or whatever. So go ahead, Mark.
But there's the people that are very verbal about overuse of CG. And yeah, we know that. We agree. But some people can't let it go. They just have to talk about it over and over again. And they're the same people that are complaining about the guy that's wearing jeans in the background play of the Mandalorian. And I feel like which side do you want? You want practical, where you're going to get some mistakes. I personally love the stormtrooper hitting his head. I'm so glad that wasn't one of the fixes. I'm so glad that George left that alone. It's perfect.
And I'm a big believer they should still make a figure of the guy in the jeans just for people to be able to say.
They have online.
Exactly.
I've seen it. Yeah.
So yeah, no, look, guys, we've been going for about an hour and a half. Go ahead, D-Doc, before we start closing up.
Do you think they're going to call Boba Fett Ship the Slave One in the show? That's one question right there. Is he going to say I have to board? Are they going to say, "Oh, that's Boba Fett's starship"?
I bet they
fire spray now.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Alfie.
I bet they refer to it as the model as opposed to its name. So someone will say, "Oh, there's a fire spray. That's Boba Fett's one," or something like that. They'll find a way of not saying it. I think.
You agree?
I'll be very shocked if they say
the latest War of the Bounty Hunters comic book. He refers to it as the fire spray.
So that X-Wing game that I play, so it's the Star Wars Legion, but the X-Wing, which is the dogfighting version of it, the model card on it, that's the first time I really have ever heard of it. When I got the card, the box said Slave One, but you can fly it as a generic pilot without Boba, and it's called a fire spray. And I was like, what the hell is a fire spray? Before I looked at the card art to see that it was actually Boba, the Slave One. So the fire spray's out there, and people flying and playing X-Wing have known it as, and people that are deep into Star Wars lore. Right. Yeah. So I think it's just,
I drive a Mustang, and you know what? The name on it on the app, on my Ford app, is Obi-Wan. So I mean, it's it's the Obi-Wan to me, but it's a Mustang. So if Boba wants to call it a Slave One, but it's a fire spray, I guess that's the way we're going.
It's like the I don't know, when I got so many questions, especially following that whole incident with the rename. Everyone was obsessed about it. Every podcast, that's all they centered around. And all I said was, because people were like saying, why are you getting upset? And I said, you'd be upset if they renamed the Millennium Falcon. Who wouldn't be upset at the renaming of the Millennium Falcon if suddenly Millennium became a bad word because of something that happens in the future?
You mean the Y1300 or the YT1300?
YT1300.
That's what it would have to become. But people would be like they'd be outraged. They would be outraged.
Completely.
So
hey, we've had a good long show here. Everybody's got to get to sleep, get to work, except for Mark, who's still nice, good early evening.
No, I'm old. It's bedtime.
Brent, I'll start with you. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to end the show with before we just any final thoughts you want to bring to it?
So I am going to actually have street cred with my wife, who thinks that I'm just the biggest nerd on the planet, when I tell her that I actually talked to the person who animated Casper the Ghost, because that's one of her favorite pictures. So she's gonna be like, "Oh, really? Like, yeah, it's not just Star Wars people sometimes." No, so it's really, really awesome talking to you, sir. I'm excited. I am excited for Boba Fett's the show to come out, but I'm trying to keep my open mind as to. I know that there are those ideas of the flashbacks, and I hope we get some of those stories. I would love to see where that dent came from. You know what I mean? Like, and where some of those battle scars, like, oh, that's where that came from. But I'm open to see if it's not. And any Twi'lek on screen is worth watching.
D-Doc, I'll let you go next, and I'm going to tell you again, shout out here, thank you again for getting us connected to Mark, because he is awesome, and I hope we get to, at some convention in the future, meet up with him, but face to face instead of just on Zoom calls here. But D-Doc, any closing thoughts or any topic you wanted to hit on we didn't hit on tonight?
No, I mean, honestly, I just want to say it was awesome to have Mark on there tonight. There was times I had to remind myself that I was actually on the podcast rather than just listening, because some of the stuff he was saying was just so interesting. And it's really good to just get a peek inside of the inner workings of this stuff. And, you know, I can tell you're a passionate guy who enjoys working on it the same way I might working on other stuff too. You know, it's like, it's fun to just be able to have a conversation and talk with you. And, you know, I enjoy following you, and I'm excited for future stuff that you do. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Hey, and so Mark, just to let you know, this Rule of the Galaxy awesome thing behind me, D-Doc made this. It's all done by wood. It's all, you know, kind of like three-dimensional behind me here. So he's very crafty and handy here. So if you ever need something to put up some of your artwork on there, D-Doc's the guy to go through. So
okay. Good to know.
I kind of like this right here. That might be one in the future. I might throw that on some wood eventually.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
think a large one on the wall.
Yeah.
There you go. Alfie, since Boba Fett is your thing, your guy, before we end with Boba Fett here, I thought I'd drop it by you and any closing thoughts or anything like that you might have.
This really has just been an amazing conversation. I've loved hearing the stories. And like D-Doc said, I've really gotten lost listening. And I've had to remind myself I have to think of something to say. But yeah, it's been great. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the Book of Boba Fett once it drops.
Yeah.
I just have to invite me in the future
afterwards. Count on it.
So we can like reflect. There you go.
Yes.
I think that's a good idea.
There you go.
Mark, I will tell you again from being the host of the show, just having somebody on of your stature and the things you've been involved with is fantastic. What I always like to tell people is right now, I mean, what's the best way if there's things that people can either buy from you or reach out to you about, or the places to contact you, or any kind of things that will support anything you're doing? What's the best ways for people to track you down or visit what you've done or what you're doing right now?
If you can't find me under my name, then Boba Fett ANHSE, New Hope Special Edition. But I'd love to plug my YouTube, because I got so much stuff on my YouTube channel. Again, it's Boba Fett ANHSE. I've got all my paintings on this, stop motion. I've even got footage salvaged from the shoot that we were talking about on that December morning.
Awesome.
I got it, and it was sped up. It was like Benny Hill. So I stretched it out to normal rate, but each one was sped up slightly more. So if you watch it, you see it's a bit more jittery as it goes along, because I stretched it out to see what it was real time, because the guy had compressed everything. So, but that's on there, and yeah.
You got it. Well, one, again, thank you. We do, you know, our other guests, we keep telling them, hopefully at a convention or sometime our paths will cross. And we love doing this on the Zoom, but
where are you guys then? Where are you guys?
We're all in Indiana, except for D-Doc, who's in Philadelphia.
Okay,
So,
Indiana. Yeah.
So
do they have conventions in Indiana?
Yeah.
There's a couple India. There's like a Pop Con that came through. There's an Indiana Comic Con. And then there's Gen Con, which is more tabletop gaming and gaming type stuff. There's a Comic Con that they're trying to get off the ground. It's a little bit smaller one. All seem to be right around the September to November time range.
Okay.
At least that's what it seemed like.
We're we're right in between St. Louis, Chicago, Cincinnati, Detroit, Louisville. You put a ring around us there, though. So if you're ever going to be in any of those areas, please let us know.
Close Encounters country.
Yes, Close Encounters country.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the first time someone's told me that, but yes, you are correct. So thank you again, Mark, and
Welcome.
for all of our listeners, thank you. This is a great show for us to just we nerded out and geeked out, just feeling like we were in touch with the Star Wars universe right here tonight with Mark. But I did want to give a shout out to somebody before we broke away. Scott Baker. If you want to follow Scott Baker on Facebook, look up Scott Baker. He's wearing an X-Wing helmet. He is the guy who owns my2dheroes.com. And that's the number 2, the letter D, and then heroes, my2dheroes.com. He does have quite a bit of Boba Fett stuff. He does magnets, he does stickers, he does stand-ups for your rooms or for your yard or whatever. We're going to get some things and some t-shirts to him soon that are going to be really cool. But if anybody wants to just check that out, I always like to promote people who do really good work. And it's my2dheroes.com. Scott Baker on Facebook. He's wearing an X-Wing helmet if you're looking for that guy. But I just think he's really good and he does some really good work. So I wanted to give him a shout out there. But to everybody, again, thank you so much for being a part of the show. For our listeners, thank you for being with us 107 chapters in. We're going to keep doing this. We've got some great guests coming up in the near future. Mark was great. We're going to have him back after the book of Boba Fett and hear his thoughts on that. Always follow us again at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter, rulethegalaxysw@gmail.com. Just Rule the Galaxy on Facebook, and you'll be able to check us out on YouTube under Rule the Galaxy here in the next few days. And until next week, may the Force be with you.